Hi, beautiful souls, and welcome back to She Feels Everything, the podcast for empaths, highly sensitive, and spiritual souls, and anyone who's ever been told they're too much. I'm your host, Jill Minto, writer, coach, healer, and someone who truly feels everything, maybe just like you do. Thank you for tuning in again, or if it's your first time here, I'm so glad you found your way to this space. Today, I want to talk about what it really means to feel everything, not just the pretty bits, but the messy, aching, soul-shaping stuff too. Being a sensitive soul isn't always easy. Growing up, I didn't have the language for it. I remember my parents thought I was actually shy and used to push me to do things I didn't want to do, which, as you can imagine, it made it even worse. I remember being asked to do readings in church, acting in a drama group. It was really, really hard. But my parents thought they were doing me a favour by pushing me to do more and more things like that, when it was actually very overwhelming. I remember I used to just want to go home, spend time in my bedroom alone, and just shut everything out, shut the world out. It was really, really hard growing up as a sensitive and as an empath, really. I just knew that certain things hurt me more deeply. It might have been something that somebody said, or I might have seen something on the telly, I watched a movie that was very violent, something like that. I mean, I remember at school, there's a lot of emotions going around when you're at school, aren't there? So that was difficult too. I remember being at school around people. I didn't enjoy school an awful lot because of being a sensitive and an empath. I just didn't know how to handle myself, really. So going back to the comments I made about my parents when they thought I was shy, it's interesting, isn't it, when you think about children growing up nowadays, if parents and teachers are thinking, oh, they're shy and pushing them to doing things they really don't want to do, maybe they are empaths and highly sensitives, and what they really would rather do is have a retreat space, somewhere quiet to go to, instead of being pushed into doing more outgoing, more things in crowds where it makes you feel uncomfortable. Because crowds also used to really overwhelm me. In fact, they still do. It's just obviously now I know how to handle myself better. I know how to protect myself when I'm in crowds. But when I was growing up, it was very, very different. And I used to notice things that others didn't, such as like energy in a room, things like that, typical empath sort of things where you feel energy around you. I would cry easily, not just for myself, but for other people, for animals, for stories I heard, even the energy in a room. As I was saying just before there, when you walk into a room, your whole mood can change without you actually realizing it. One minute you might think, why do I feel sad all of a sudden? Or why do I feel irritated or frustrated? Or why am I suddenly laughing and feeling happy when I wasn't a minute ago? And it might be that you've walked into a room where there's lots of people, and you pick up the energy of the room and the people in it. So it's really quite interesting. It was a tricky time growing up, really. But I do feel for youngsters nowadays, if they are empaths and highly sensitives, and are just really being misunderstood like I was. I mean, for years I thought something was wrong with me. I tried to toughen up, to be like everybody else. but it didn't really matter what I did. I always felt so much. And obviously, thinking back, that there wasn't anything wrong with me at all. I was just really misunderstood. So if you're listening and nodding along to this, I see you. Sensitivity isn't a flaw, it's a gift. But like any gift, it takes time to understand and really honour it. So let's talk a little bit about the body for a moment. I mean, as empaths and highly sensitives, we don't just feel emotionally, we often feel physically too. You feel it in your body. You feel maybe that your skin might tingle, your chest might feel tighter. You might feel really, really fatigued when you've been around a lot of people. And if you're not in tune with your empath nature and your sensitivity, you might think there's actually something wrong with you. You don't really know how to deal with that, how to cope with it. And sometimes we carry those emotions of others in our bodies without actually realizing. I remember times I used to feel really exhausted and overstimulated, even after simple things like going to the supermarket to do food shopping, being out in the town, just going out for a meal or having a cup of coffee, being surrounded by too many people, it would sometimes feel really draining. Maybe the lights might be too bright, the music would be too loud, people might be too close to you. Does any of that sound familiar? So over the years, I've learned to really incorporate tools to help to nourish my nervous system and to help me feel more relaxed and to be able to cope with the feeling of being a highly sensitive person out in sort of the real world environment. So that are things like using breathing exercises, crystals, having plenty of rest, resting when you need to, setting yourself boundaries, and lots of self-care. One thing that's so essential for empaths and highly sensitives is to schedule 3 regular retreat times every day. And this is really, really important to nourish your nervous system. So if you don't take anything from this podcast today, just think about this one tip because it is really, really good. Even if it's just taking 5 minutes out, if you're working during the day as well, just take 5 minutes out. You're allowed to have breaks, aren't you? Lunch times, etc. Take 5 minutes out, go and have a cup of herbal tea and sit down and relax. Don't talk to anybody. Just take that 5 minutes for yourself. And the idea maybe is to have a 30-minute nap where you have some total rest and relaxation, have 30 minutes sleep. Anything really, or 30 minutes walking outside is really nice, walking in nature, outdoors. If you can't go outdoors, you can watch a nature video on YouTube, something like that. You can read a book for 30 minutes, little things like that. But I want you to think about incorporating 3 regular retreat times in your day. Whenever that may be, think about your day and think about when you might benefit from having those retreat times. And I've not heard of that, leaving it till bedtime either. Just think about sort of maybe something mid-morning, early afternoon, and then maybe when you finish work or, after work, come in, put your comfies on, have some chill time before you settle down for the evening. Those sorts of things. Yeah, but it's a great idea, and you will really, really benefit from that if you do incorporate it into your routine. It does make a difference to your day. So here's what changed me when I started to tune in to my sensitivity. I stopped seeing my sensitivity, as something to fix, because that's what I was doing in the past. I thought there was something wrong with me, and something wasn't right. I needed fixing. But looking back, I can see that, but I stopped seeing myself as something to fix and started to see myself as something more sacred. I started feeling deeply. Feeling deeply helps us to heal, and it opens the door to intuition, to soul wisdom, and to empathy. It really does make a difference when you start seeing yourself. I mean, sensitivity is a gift. It's something that we should be proud of. And I think it's just if you're brought up with people who don't understand you, don't know what you're going through, that is really, really difficult to see yourself as, as something good, as something sacred, as something spiritual. You are gifted. If you are highly sensitive and you're an empath, you're here on this earth for a reason, We are all here for a reason. I felt my way through grief after losing both parents, which I remember was very challenging at the time. Again, being totally misunderstood. Yeah, it's not an easy thing for me to talk about, still losing both parents, quite a few years ago now. But I felt my way through it because at the time I didn't know I was an empath, so it wasn't an easy thing to navigate. I felt my way through heartbreaks that really, really broke me down in my early years. Through the beautiful messiness of falling in love again, each emotion taught me something new. It taught me more about myself, about my sensitivity, really. And when I began to write my story, She Felt Everything, it was like giving those feelings a place to land. Writing became a way to honour all I'd been through, and hopefully to help others like yourself to feel less alone in their own journeys. So I'm just going to read a little bit from my book, She Felt Everything. Before I arrived in this world, I believe my soul chose this path, including the family, the physical challenges, and the emotional terrain I would travel. I didn't always understand why I felt so out of place growing up, but after my soul awakening, it all made sense. I was born sensitive, not just emotionally, but spiritually, energetically, deeply. I came into this lifetime with a mission to remember who I was. I can't remember much of those early years, and I believe that's because the trauma was so deep I blocked it out. I've always known I screamed as a baby, especially in hospital, and looking back now through the lens of being an empath, I understand why. I was highly sensitive, not just to pain, but to energy, to fear, to separation, to the clinical, soulless environments of hospital rooms. I absorbed everything, and no one knew how to help me process it. I was too small to speak, but my soul was already feeling everything. So if you've ever felt too much, I want to remind you you're not broken. You're beautifully attuned. You're wired for connection, depth, and heart-led living. Feeling everything isn't a weakness. It's your soul speaking. And yes, it can be hard, but you don't have to do it alone. That's why I created this space. That's why I write. That's why I share, so we can walk this path together. Thank you for sharing this time with me today. If this episode touched something in you, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out on Facebook or Instagram at Inner Healing Empath, or leave a little review or comment wherever you're listening. It really does help other sensitive souls find this space. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and share with a friend who might need this reminder that their sensitivity is sacred. Until next time, take care of your tender heart. Love, light, and blessings from Jill, the Inner Healing Empath. She feels everything.